the right course to further their studies and their career and settle in New Zealand. Joining me today is our student expert, Vivian, who has been in this industry for well over 10 years now, and you will hear more from her during the session. Also, we have our principal advisor, Katie Armstrong, presenting today. She has made a remarkable contributions to the New Zealand immigration and education industry for somewhere on the past 2 decades. And with a wealth of experience and in-depth knowledge, Katie has guided countless students and immigrants on the immigration and settlement journey in New Zealand. As a principal advisor at Intuitive, Katie brings unrivaled expertise to the table, ensuring her clients receive the best possible support and guidance. We will hear more from her on the different pathways available for aspirants looking to migrate to New Zealand. So this is our team. If you can just see the slide here, we are 7 immigration advisors licensed by the Immigration Advisors Authority and with a total combined immigration experience of over 80 years. Our extensive knowledge and track record of successfully assisting clients in their immigration process in New Zealand has established us as one of the trusted and reliable immigration advisors in the industry. So today, our main focus is why New Zealand? Why New Zealand? We want to show you why you should choose New Zealand and what this country has to offer. I'm a classic example of a migrant from India who, since my arrival, I'm in an awe for this country. We then want to talk about the different pathways to settle. I'm sure most of you have that as your end goal. Now, migration via a job offer, Katie will tell you about the do's and don'ts and how realistic this is as of today. Pathways to study, we're going to focus a lot on that. And with the new 6-point skilled migrant category, education plays a pivotal role. We will hear more about this in the coming slides. And finally, why into New Zealand, where our team of licensed immigration advisors provide tailored advice and strategy to fulfill your migration needs. So over to you, Katie.
Okay, very warm evening here in New Zealand. Well, maybe not that warm, but a warm welcome to the evening here in New Zealand, wherever you are. I'm the principal advisor at NZ. I am going to be dealing with the side of things which is sort of big picture stuff. Why would you want to come to New Zealand? Now, you'll see on the slide it says, why Aotearoa New Zealand? Aotearoa is the Māori name for New Zealand, and increasingly we are using it either instead of or together with New Zealand. So you'll see that, and that would be something you'd become very familiar with if you actually come and live here. Anyway, classically, these are the reasons why people want to actually move to New Zealand. They sometimes seem maybe cliched, but they're actually true. So we have beautiful landscapes, we have a temperate climate, which I think is very important. If you actually look at the map of New Zealand, you'll see 2 main long skinny islands, and right in the top it's subtropical. Technically, you can see people growing mangoes and bananas. Then right down in the south, it gets cold. You've got alpine conditions, very beautiful, but very different climates. And, you know, it's also highly dictated by the fact that we are islands. So temperate climate, for people who don't like arid, New Zealand is a really fantastic option. We're clean. I've just come back from a trip actually to India and to Sri Lanka. And when you get back, you almost feel like you need to put your sunglasses on. It's so sort of green and clean looking. We're also known for being a very stable and democratic, peaceable, safe country to be in, which is all true. We're relaxed, friendly, outdoorsy, progressive, diverse, equitable. I mean, New Zealanders are renowned for being very fair-minded people. And we have very functional, accessible public services. Again, when you travel the world, you become very aware as a New Zealander just how much there is that functions here by way of public service. Ruben, Vivian, and myself, we're all migrants at some stage in our journey. 1 in 4 New Zealanders are actually born outside of New Zealand. So we do have this, we have people who come here and get that perspective. We also have a very low unemployment rate, even though things have been clearly difficult in the world's economies. We're still hovering at around 3.6% unemployment. For some countries, that's absolutely unimaginable. There are countries in the world with 30, 40% unemployment, but not here. Also worth pointing out, because people don't always think about this, but we actually have a very strong system of rights in our employment settings. So there's been huge work done by successive governments to actually have laws in place which give workers strong rights. We have minimum wages, we have living wages, we have, you know, many compulsory things that employers need to do, which are all designed to try to protect not just migrants, but Kiwi workers as well. So a strong culture of rights. When it comes to education, we are renowned for having a world-class education system. And what I think is really important for people who are deciding whether to come to New Zealand, particularly to study or to migrate, because you might be thinking about your children's future education. New Zealand, unlike some of the other countries in the world, post-COVID, decided to take its own route. So some of the countries, for example, Canada, Australia, they sort of went completely open and said, come on in. And they've got relatively low-level settings, which means that they have actually had very large influxes of migrants, and the quality of the experience for those migrants, particularly the quality of the education that they're receiving, is not particularly great in many cases. And it almost reminds me of New Zealand about 10 or 15 years ago. Back in those days, the government was much more intent on numbers and just getting money out of students. It used to talk about, let's double the export education market. And they would talk about the dollar value of that. Whereas now the focus is much more on quality over quantity. And although the quantity, the numbers of students coming in is coming back up towards pre-COVID levels, they have absolutely cleaned out the education industry. A lot of what were perceived as low-level, poor quality courses that didn't have good outcomes have basically been eradicated because they've changed the immigration setting. So we now have a regime which I think is very favorable to students coming in, quality over quantity. Yeah, as I say, very different to, in fact, that's why, today I fielded two calls, and it's been a sort of at that pace for quite a while, of people who've gone to the UK to study. They sort of rushed over there just after COVID while we were still closed, and now they're trying to get into New Zealand because they've realized it's not all that they anticipated. The other thing, the last bullet point, is signaling that we've had an immigration reset. Again, New Zealand said we don't necessarily want to go after huge numbers. We are trying to align our immigration policies with the true needs of the country. So if the country has particular skills needs, we align the education opportunities for internationals to come in. And then what we're looking for is those pathways to residence, which have now been brought into a much better alignment. It's not to say that every student that comes to study here is going to end up being a New Zealand resident, but if you get good advice, there are opportunities here to go from studies right through to becoming a permanent resident here. It's all been called the reset, the Great Reset. We've had more changes of policy in the last 2 years than we've had in the last 2 decades. Now, a lot of people who are obviously considering coming to New Zealand, probably the single most important thing on their minds is, well, how do I get to residence or citizenship? We know that people coming here are not coming here to leave again on the whole. From certain countries they do. We've got countries like where people can get working holidays, just come here on an experience and go back. But what we're talking tonight are those serious pathways to residence and then to citizenship. So here's some key points in the short time available. We have currently 4 ways to get residence, okay? Residence is what you have to apply for before you can ever become a citizen. You've got to do your time as a resident before you can go to citizenship. We'll look more at that in a moment. So how do I become a resident? Well, these 4 ways. One is called straight to residence. One is called work to residence. One is through the skilled migrant category 6-point system, which I'll talk a little bit more about. And one is through sector agreements. So we've actually got more pathways to residence than we had before the Great Reset. Some really interesting features to all of those 4 categories is that we no longer have a cap. Now, you might be wondering, you know, Katie said earlier, we're not focused on quantity, we're focused on quality and outcomes. And yet at the same time, she's saying there's no cap. Hear me out. What they've done here is, instead of having what we used to have, which was a rolling, you know, we basically had a quota. It used to be annual, then it went to 18 months. Every 18 months, you could have so many people, X number given residence. And they've lifted that number, saying, no, let's not cap it, because caps just create queues and delays, and that is not good for people's well-being. Let's just have the right settings, and the settings themselves should help control who's actually eligible to make an application for residence in the first place. Once you're eligible, we're not going to say there's a cap, because we don't want to slow you down. So we are seeing faster processing times now. And that is something that, for example, I talk to people who say, you know, in the United States of America, I'm going to have to wait 8 years to get a green card. Or in, you know, UK, I was hearing that a lot of people are struggling and they may have to wait several years before they can be eligible. Or once they've applied, they're in interminable queues. Not here in New Zealand anymore. We've had our residence applications are taking anywhere from a few days to about 6 or 7 months, but not more. So it's much faster than it used to be. There's a common age cap for all the categories of 55. You cannot be 56 or older and get in as a skilled migrant, but 55 is already very generous. It's more generous than other countries. Particularly Australia, where it's 45 and for most occupations. IELTS 6.5 is the standard for a main applicant in all 4 of those categories. And I've put in brackets, Ruben's head's obscuring it slightly. Ruben, you need to tilt your head. Higher. There are some occupations where people have to be registered and they might need more than IELTS 6.5. That would be, for example, a doctor or a nurse or a teacher. But yeah, for most people, it's a 6.5. And the other thing, Ruben, you're going to have to limbo down again. All routes require a skilled job offer. That's what that says behind Ruben's head. All routes require a skilled job offer. So there is no single person who is going to get to residence without a skilled job offer. Okay, so getting a job offer is king. Now, just to give you a bit more panorama, because a lot of people ask us, so how, sitting from overseas, can I possibly get this skilled job offer? So there are some people who manage to get skilled job offers without ever coming to New Zealand first and without ever having to come here to study. And so in the top of this diagram, you'll see something called job search. So there are some clients that we will see have a really good skill set, who have good communication skills, who we think are going to be good bets, who we could actually put on a contract and say, you could be searching for a job. You'll need some help. You'll need to partner with us, because if you try applying on your own, very often you might get a no response. Employers like to know that you have a strategy, that you are viable, that you are working with a reputable licensed immigration advisor while you are job searching. And so for some people, they will go from job search straight to a skilled job offer. It might not come immediately. Sometimes it takes 6 months or a year. Some people get it overnight. Depends on their skill set, depends on the job market. But if they get the skilled job offer, those people can go down one of these 4 pathways to residence that I signaled before. And some of them will have to work before they can actually apply. So I said there was no cap, and I said it was fast processing times, but some people do have to work a certain amount of time before they can actually become eligible to apply. That might be 2 years, it might be 3 years, or for some people it's nothing at all. They just get a job offer. If they're on green list tier 1, they can go straight to residence. We've had people who got a job offer from overseas. We apply for residence the very next day. They land into New Zealand as a resident from day 1, some weeks or a few months later. Now, that is a very rare, that is I guess, an elite red carpet experience. There are, for the vast majority of people, we find ourselves saying, you are probably not going to get a job if you're sitting offshore. It does depend on skill sets, so I'm not going to generalize, but it's very simple really as to the reason why. It's because, you know, in New Zealand at any given time, there are all the New Zealanders who are looking for jobs. There are New Zealanders who live overseas who might be thinking of coming back looking for jobs. But then also in the country, there's all the migrants milling around who might be already studying, or they might have graduated and got working rights, or they might have a partner who's got working rights. And all of those people, the employers will all generally reach out to them first to employ them before they start heading offshore. Not always, but mostly. And that's for good reason, because they have to jump through fewer hoops, and it's much easier to interview the person and then take the person on with less risk associated. So that is why when people can't succeed in a job search, or perhaps because they're just genuinely, you know, interested in coming to studies and seeing how it goes, they will go for studies. So that's, the light bulb is there because that's an idea. Sometimes people, a light bulb goes off. I can see when I talk to them about it, when I say, have you thought about the study route? Because studies, what that does is it gets you into New Zealand with some working rights. It gives you post-study working rights, which you'll hear about in a minute. It can get your partner in if you play your cards right. And you're here, you're in the country. Ruben and I were talking earlier today. We've got a lovely client who was trying to get a job, totally in a great profession. All the feedback was that the skill set was fabulous, but just wasn't quite cracking the job search from offshore. Has come in, is doing a postgraduate diploma in IT, has now cracked the job. He's now breaking through that barrier, got a job offer, and we're going to be able to move on, and he'll go to residence. Now, just to complete the picture, down the bottom of this slide, you can see that once you get your residence, you then have to wait another 2 years, and then you can go for something called permanent residence, which, if in really simple terms, just cements your residence forever. And then if you want to, you don't have to, but 3 years after you've got permanent residence, you can go for citizenship. So for some people, the journeys are going to all be of different duration, because a green list tier 1 person is going to get to the end game of citizenship before someone who's had to maybe come in, study, work for 3 years, and then apply for residence to start the 5 years. But it's all good news. You can end up with the New Zealand passport if you get it right. Let's move on, Ruben, to my last bit. I think it's my last bit, can't remember. A little bit more about these routes to residence. Well, the green list, if you have a good memory from a few slides back, the green list leads us to 2 of the 4 ways to residence. Currently on there, we've got 191 roles. across 11 industries. There are probably no surprises. You can all Google New Zealand Green List and find out what's on there, but you will find it's mostly health, engineering, IT, some of the trades, and construction roles, right? Excuse me. Oh dear, excuse me. Let me just have some water. Right. Too much talking, obviously. Well, we're going to get 17 more roles added to the Green List come March. We were told that recently. And the list is broken down into tier 1 and tier 2. So if you're tier 1, you go straight to residence. If you're tier 2, you have to come in, work for 2 years, then apply for your residence. I want to stress that not all the jobs on the Green List are what we call high-flown jobs. They're not all about engineers and doctors and the rest. There are roles like crane operators. What else have we got? We're going to have fitters. We're going to have welders. We've got plumbers and electricians. And so, you know, there's an interesting variety. We even have halal slaughtermen on there. Or maybe not on the Green List. Is that on a Green List or sector? Anyway, sorry, Ruben, just go back one point quickly, one slide quickly. Just one point to make, that no matter what the Green List job is, there's always fine print. You either need to meet some kind of qualification or registration and or salary requirements. So it's not just about X job, it's the conditions of that job. And now, Ruben, you can happily go to the next slide. The next slide is if you don't meet the Green List, and there are a lot of people that don't meet the Green List who are in perfectly good skilled jobs, they will be the ones that will be going down this brand new, we've just had this come in a couple of weeks back, 9th of October. This is now our new, completely revamped skilled migrant category, whereby you need 6 points to be able to get to qualify. And I mean, this slide, you can, if you want to rewatch this, you can. I'm not going to dwell on it. I want to just signal that to get 6 points, you have to score something either through having a qualification or through being in a registered occupation or by having a certain a wage. Okay, so there's different base points. And then you can add to that by working in a skilled job in New Zealand. So there's a couple of points to make. The first is that they've done away with giving points for any overseas experience. That's gone. And so we now are in a regime whereby they've really put qualifications on quite a pedestal. And we're talking bachelor's or above. You won't find a diploma on here. You won't find a sub-diploma level qualification. None of those get points. That's a huge cultural shift for us to get used to. But for people coming in now to study bachelor's or above, there are huge incentives because you can really get some points chalked up on the board. If you come and do a master's are my favorite. You come and do a 1-year master's or an 18-month master's, and there are a lot of mature people now with great experience who can get direct entry to master's without even ever having done a bachelor's. You can get 5 out of your 6 points just by doing your New Zealand master's. That means you then can top up, work in a skilled job for 1 year, 5 plus 1 point equals 6, you're home and dry. So it's a complicated category. The government's been trying to pretend it's quite simple. It's not that simple. Everyone needs a skilled job offer, even if they've done a PhD. Everybody needs to get 6 points. There are some real complications that require advice. But yeah, main point is the qualifications count for an awful lot here. Right, so Ruben, I'm going to so quickly scoot over this slide because I can sum it up. It was kind of alluded to in one of the earlier slides that, of course, you don't have to come and study just to be able to get to be a skilled migrant. There is direct migration via a job offer. Those are the lucky people. I'm going to call them the elite, the ones that manage to get a job offer from afar by Now, some people can do it by luck rather than design, but in most cases, it does require some careful thought. You're going to have a suitable job offer from accredited employers. Those employers, as I say, don't always reach out readily overseas. And so Ruben, I think we'll touch on this a bit later, but at Into NZ, when we're working or assessing a client, we always look at, do we think we can get this person through directly to, through direct migration via a job offer? And if that's not going to be possible, would studies be maybe a good plan B? Or are studies just a plan A from the beginning? So we're very open to all these different options. But yes, it's just a signal. If you can get a job offer from offshore, fantastic. Okay, that's that slide. And this reiterates it really. Securing a job offer is easy for some, but very challenging for others. We sometimes get people who say, how come I'm on the green list? I'm a civil engineer, but I'm just not getting anywhere with trying to get a job. What actually happens is often they'll get a reply, if at all, saying, sorry, you don't have a visa, a work visa. So no visa, no job. We won't consider you. We're only considering people who've got work visas. And they go, what? This is like a catch-22. I need the job. Anyway, at Into NZ, we are very seasoned at helping people who do need job offers. And we can support you with job search support in some cases. It doesn't mean we're going to guarantee that we can get you a job. It doesn't mean that we're going to, sometimes we may actually have an employer who has asked us to try to find a specific skill set, and we will always try to date match those people. In other situations, we've got people who are trying to get a job, and we are there in support to basically give you the tools and a strategy that will help you approach your job search sensibly and viably. And if that fails, studies, as I say, can be a way to open up the doors to skilled employment. So that is that over to you now, Vivian, I believe.
Yes, hi, hear that. I'm Maureen, greetings from New Zealand. I'm Vivian. I'm very happy to be here today to talk about the New Zealand education. I became a licensed immigration advisor for 10 years and specialized in the students' enrollment and the student visa applications. I'm so glad to be here today. We're going to talk about the education providers generally, and also talk about, if you come and study in New Zealand, what are the important things you need to know. So when you think about coming to New Zealand to study, so first thing, you might want to ask, okay, so where and what course can I study? So first of all, I'll talk about for the education providers here in New Zealand. So there are 8 universities in New Zealand. So according to the QS World University ranking, all of the 8 universities are ranking the top 500. So for New Zealand to really provide a world-class education. And among all the 8 universities, so the Auckland University ranked 68, according to the recent QS ranking. So the universities will provide courses, qualification from diploma up to PhD. In addition to the 8 universities, we have 16 polytechnics. So from last year, so all the 16 polytechs are merged into one big umbrella, Tipukanga, that's a Maori word. And that means to be proficient or skilled in a particular roles. So from the name that we know that for the polytechs, so their advantage of the programs offered by the 16 polytechs, they are more hands-on and more practical. So we have a lot of international students studied at the universities or at one of the polytechs. So the polytechs provide qualification from a certificate up to from certificate, diploma, bachelor, and master's degree. So they don't have the PhD. So that's only one difference from the university. And also in New Zealand, we have over 400 private training establishments. So we also have a lot of international students studying in one of the PTEs. So some of the PTEs, they are the for their own industry, they are the leading institutions, and they also provide very good education. So among all the students, we have 14%. They are the international students. So as you know, for New Zealand, so the international education are very important, to the economy as well. So we really welcome the international students to come and study in New Zealand. So in terms of the schools, there are state schools and private schools. Over 2,544 schools, and out of all the schools, 4% are the private schools. So for New Zealand, there's one important thing I need to mention is that for all the institutions, all the education providers, if they want to accept the international students, they will need to sign up for abide by the code of the pastoral care for international students. So that means really for the international students in New Zealand, they are really well looked after by the government, by the schools, by the education providers. Okay, can we come to Ruben? Can we come? Yeah, thank you. So if you look at here, so that's our New Zealand international education strategy. So it sets up a path for the future of the international education sector. So there are 3 goals. So first, providing an excellent education and student experience. So I would really emphasize here for the student experience. So later on, yeah, we're going to have several international students' testimony about their experience in New Zealand. And the second goal is to ensure that international education is resilient and sustainable. Okay, so the third one is developing a global citizens. As you know, in New Zealand, this is a multicultural society. It's yeah, there are as Katie mentioned, 1 out of 4 New Zealand people that from are migrants. So that's why there are a lot of people living here, but from different countries. So it's really multicultural, and so the goal is really for the global citizens. Okay, so let's look at, there are a lot of good things about New Zealand. So as I mentioned, the code of practice, New Zealand is the first country in the world to adopt this code of practice for care of the international students. So, in the practice, so we really, for those education providers, even for us as agents, we need to comply with this code of practice. And also for New Zealand, if you come and work and study as international students, for most courses, you will get no more than 20 hours per week during your study, your part-time work rights. And there are also a lot of opportunities for the internship and the work experience. And also another thing I need to mention is the lifestyle. So as you know, in New Zealand, the people here, we have a very good, the natural, the outdoors, the sports, a lot of places, for people just to, just to have a very balanced lifestyle. So that's a lot of international students, they enjoy really much about that. Okay, so at the moment, the minimum wage in New Zealand is $22.70 per hour. So if you have your part-time job while you study, so you will get this at least, this minimum wage. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much about, a lot of good things about if you study in New Zealand. And also for New Zealand, out of the 40 countries, according to the statistics from OECD, New Zealand ranks the 7th for highest performing graduates. So that's really great. It's ahead of the US, Canada, and England. Very impressive. Okay, so if you look at this slide, so we have a lot of, several number 1, number 2. So that's all about New Zealand. Among the English-speaking countries, New Zealand is the number 1 for preparing students for the future. And out of all the countries, New Zealand was the first to have the well-being strategy for international students. And also New Zealand for the work rights, and New Zealand is ranked number 1 compared to other countries. And also out of all the countries, New Zealand was the first to introduce the pastoral care requirements to support and protect international students. So that's really a very, very important system set up by the government, to make sure that all the international students will be looked after well. And also, New Zealand is ranked 2nd out of 163 countries, the most peaceful place to live. And out of 127 nations, so New Zealand is ranked 22nd for innovation. So that's something I will talk about later, that for some international students, they have a very interesting and very good research projects about innovation. So, and also New Zealand is the top 10 for creativity. So that's really, New Zealand did very well, in this aspects. Okay, so now you will see from this student, we know how New Zealand, is famous for innovation, for creativity. Because, so for this student, the research topic is for green packaging. So that's in fungi. That's interesting. As you know, in New Zealand, we're famous for 100% pure and also green. So that's a typical, word for New Zealand. So for this student, so what he really enjoy is also a work-life balance. And also he enjoyed much about the outdoors as well. Okay, so we have another student, and he is research about the vertical farming. So this is about where crops are grown in trees indoors under controlled conditions. And so this student studied at Lincoln University, and he described this experience is amazing. And he made a lot of friends in New Zealand, and also learned about different cultures here. So I think, okay, so for the Indian students, the good thing is for New Zealand, just recently announced a 400,000 investment as part of the Indian strategy. So that's really something good about for Indian students to study here. This is really a goodwill, you know, between the two governments as well. Okay, so we have another student. Okay, so she's from India and she studies a bachelor degree in the so the viticulture is really a typical New Zealand good at the very good qualification and with a high ranking in viticulture. So, and also for this student, she was lucky to get the New Zealand Excellence Scholarship as well. So what she enjoyed, okay, so she said, there's nothing that I don't enjoy about my education in New Zealand. So from lectures to the labs, everything is really amazing. Yeah, so she had a very, very good experience when studying here. Okay, so we have this lady from India and studied Master of Science at University of Waikato, and currently she is working as a medical lab scientist at Waikato DHB. And what she really enjoyed, the combination of the lectures and assignments along with the videos of experts, make it really interesting and relevant. So I think for a lot of international students, when they come here, they really have a very good experience. I mean, it's not only about the study, that's overall, you know, the lifestyle, different cultures, sports, outdoors, a lot of things. You'll even, you know, if you work part-time, so you have, you know, you have the experience about the working environment here. So that's a lot of things for the international students, to experience here in New Zealand. Okay, so let's look at for the fees. If you come as an international student, you are looking at about 25,000 to 30,000 New Zealand dollar every year, which is about so 12 to 15 lakh rupees for a bachelor degrees. And also if you look at for a master's, so you are looking at 30,000 to 50,000 every year. It's really depending on you know, what if you study at a uni or study at Polytech or PTE, so the fees will be quite a lot of difference as well. So for PhD, if you already have a master's degree in India and you want to come to pursue a higher qualification, you're going to do your doctoral study. The good thing about PhD is you just need to pay as an as a domestic student. So that's the tuition fee is about 8,000 every year. And in addition to the tuition fees, you also need to provide evidence that you have the funds of 20,000 per year for the living expenses. So when you apply for the student visa, so that's the amount you need to show to Immigration New Zealand that you have these funds for your living in New Zealand. Okay, so there are also, so when a lot of clients ask us about scholarships. So I would say when I studied my PhD at Waikato Uni, there was not really, you know, scholarships. It's very limited scholarships. But I would say in the past few years, the scholarships, we have offered more and more scholarships. So for to the international students. So there is a list of the scholarships, very popular ones. I would say like for a lot of uni yeah, for all of the 8 units, they have the scholarships to the international students. And also I would really mention here, it's a New Zealand Excellence Award. It is a unique scholarship designed exclusively for the Indian students. And also, there is this award is also an overall package of New Zealand dollar, so 320,000 offering to the Indian students, which is a very good opportunity for you to come and study at a world-class New Zealand universities and experience warm welcome, yeah, by New Zealander. Yeah, so this is really, as Katie said, so the student's route is a good option for you to consider if you want to migrate to New Zealand, because by the time you graduate, you will have a New Zealand qualification, and also from there, you will get the post-study work rights. So, okay, I'll hand over to you, Ruben, to talk about the post-study work rights.
Thank you, Vivian. Thank you for sharing your insights on the education system in New Zealand and what is it like to study in New Zealand. Thank you so much. Now moving on, post-study work visa. Well, let me just see if I can fix the video here, because the slide is not completely available. Okay. Well, I'm just okay. So yeah, post-study work visa. Well, this is like you could call an incentive for students that have invested in studies in New Zealand. The beauty of this visa is that most of them have open work conditions that allow you to work with any employer, and that too in any occupation. There are a few restrictions to this open work rights for green list courses, and I'll tell you more about this in a bit as we move forward. The current policies outline a specific duration for each level of study you undertake in New Zealand. To keep it short, let me summarize this table that is there in front of you on the slide. All students studying level 9 or a level 10 PhD qualification in New Zealand are eligible for a post-study work visa for 3 years post successfully completing their studies. Likewise, students that complete a bachelor's qualification for 3 years are eligible for a 3-year post-study work visa. Now, for a bachelor's, if the duration of study is less than 3 years, then the post-study work visa offered will be in line to the duration of the study. I'll try to give you an example of this so that you guys are not confused. Like, for example, if you get a cross credit to study a bachelor's of nursing, okay, and you study in New Zealand for 2 years, then even though you've completed the bachelor's qualification, your study duration in New Zealand was just 2 years. So the post-study work visa will only be for 2 years. I hope that helps you understand. Then for a postgraduate diploma, it's a 1-year study and you get 1 year of post-study work visa. Now coming on and discussing qualifications on the green list. The post-study work visa again, here would be for the length of the course. So most of these courses you will notice will be a level 7 graduate diploma, barring a few, which may be a level lower. Now here, the visa has restrictions. And the restrictions is that it restricts you to only work in an occupation corresponding to the occupation listed on the green list. So to make this easy and to summarize this, I'll just give an example. If a student comes and studies a graduate diploma in teaching, now that student can only work as a teacher and not as anything else when he's on this post-study work visa. Now, some of the advantages here is post-study work visa holders, we have noticed, we at Into New Zealand have noticed, and many other advisors have noticed, are preferred to offshore applicants that do not have working rights. also with the new 6-point migrant system, you would notice that you get the required years of work experience you need to qualify for residence based on the qualification you have. Like, for example, if you have a bachelor's qualification studied in New Zealand, you work in New Zealand for 3 years, and you have a post-study work visa for 3 years. And if it's a skilled job offer, meeting all the other requirements, which we would tell you when you come to us, and we would give you tailored advice on that. Now, moving on to bringing family. Okay. Now, the first point here is AEWV. AEWV stands for Accredited Employer Work Visa. Partners get restricted work rights if paid median wage, open work rights if paid twice the median wage, or green list. Now, I'll just explain this for you. Your partner can travel along with you on a partnership work visa if you hold an AEWV, which is an Accredited Employer Work Visa, as long as you're earning at least the median wage, which currently is 29 New Zealand dollar 29.66 per hour, and we suspect it might increase to 31.61 per hour. The work conditions are not fully open in that of the partner, must only work with an accredited employer in a role that is paying them at least the median wage. However, the partner's conditions would be fully open for partners of workers who are employed in the green list role or being paid twice the median wage. So, as Katie mentioned earlier, there are about 191 roles in the green list. Now, partners of green list partners of workers who are on the green list, their partners can work, will have open work rights, or if you're paid twice the median wage, your partner will have open work rights. Now, for students, we as advisors are often asked by prospective students who are planning their study journey in New Zealand as to whether their partner and children would be able to accompany them. Well, you guys should be pleased to know that New Zealand not only offers world-class education facilities to students, but also a welcoming environment for families to join their loved ones. So the short answer to the question is yes, it is indeed possible for you to bring your family along with you to New Zealand while studying. Broadly speaking, there are about 2 kinds of partnership-based temporary visas. One is partnership work visa and one is partnership visitor visa. So as the name themselves indicate, the partnership work visa grant partners work rights, while the visitor visa do not. However, both continue to be valid for the duration of the student visa, and it enables the family to stay together. Now, there are some detailed guidelines in the immigration policy which help determine which of these 2 types of visas your partner would be eligible for. But generally speaking, it is primarily reliant on the level and type of courses that a student is pursuing. Like, for example, as mentioned on the slide, students who pursue a master's or PhD, which are high-level courses, can bring their partners in on work visa. And those who are studying a level 7 or level 8 course, graduate or postgraduate diplomas, can only bring their partner in on a work visa if their course is on the green list or on the list of qualification eligible for a post-study work visa. What also is great about this, that you have open work rights, which essentially implies that your partner can work for absolutely any employer in New Zealand and in any role. So as this may seem a little confusing, but that's where we as advisors step in to guide you in picking up the right course that would enable you to travel with your family. So if your partner is eligible for a work visa, your children under the age of 19 will be treated as domestic students, which means their schooling will be practically free of cost, which is a huge advantage. I know school fees is a big pain point in India currently, where lakhs of rupees are spent on kids' schooling. So in New Zealand, you have that covered and need not worry about the financial burden. So to conclude the partnership bit here about family, I would like to reiterate that New Zealand's immigration policies for students are actually quite encouraging of families traveling along with the student. Like I've already mentioned, your family can travel along with you, your children can study on domestic fees, your family visas can continue to extend in line with yours. So you needn't fear being separated from your family whilst pursuing your academic goals in the country. Moving on, so as I had mentioned earlier, this is our team. We are 7 immigration advisors, and we call ourselves to be a one-stop shop for all your immigration needs. So if you have any queries in relation to immigration or how to migrate to New Zealand, we are here. We are here to help you. We are licensed and not just agents. So whenever we provide you with a strategy plan, we have your long-term goals in mind. We are not someone who will just push you to study without seeing how you could go ahead and further get a subsequent work visa or move on to residence. We are highly experienced and well-known in the industry. So if you even Google into New Zealand, you go to our page, you will see our client reviews, how they speak highly about us. Plus, as I earlier mentioned, Katie has been in this industry for about 20 years. We have Amita, who has worked with Immigration New Zealand for over 20 years. Virginia, who has worked more than 10 years. Navya for about 3 to 5 years. So we come with a plethora of experience, so we know what exactly is needed to get you over the line. We do it once, we do it right. And with Immigration New Zealand now coming hard on false and misleading or withholding information, we at Into New Zealand ensure that you do not bear the brunt of this. We ensure that we represent you to the fullest of our ability and with full transparency. We do not hide anything from Immigration New Zealand. We are totally transparent. We are on the ground and connected. With Intunia, we are working with a lot of employers. So here is where our job search support service also comes in handy. In case we come up with an employer that says, okay, I am looking for a technician. And if you have registered with us for the job search support, we can always date you with that employer and see if you're the right fit. We give you ongoing support throughout, which means we just don't put you on a plane to New Zealand. We give you support while you're in New Zealand as well and guide you towards becoming bright new Kiwis. So this is our reviews. As I mentioned, you should go to our website and read our reviews. Clients speak highly of us, and a lot of them have gone and shared their entire experience with Into New Zealand. So that could encourage you to work with us. If you decide to work with us, which we would encourage you do so, all you need to do is just go to www.intonz.co.nz. On our website, on the right-hand side corner, you would see you can check your eligibility, which says visa check. Just click on that. There is a form. You fill in all your information, and one of our advisors will get in touch with you. You can go further and book a free chat, a 20-minute free chat with one of our advisors. We'll talk to you, learn more about you, and then provide you tailored advice once you sign up with us. So this is all that we have today for our webinar. We'll keep you updated for our future webinars and also let you know if we have any updates. So follow us on our Facebook page. It would be great if you follow us on LinkedIn as well, where we would keep sharing updates on what Immigration New Zealand and the new policies. So that is all from us today, and hope this session was insightful for you guys. We'll try to put up the video on Facebook as promised. So if ever you need to go through it again, you have it at your disposal. So this is all from what we have here. Are there any questions? Okay, I see Katie has responded to all the questions. Thanks, Katie.
Welcome.
Okay. So that is all, Katie. Anything you would like to close with anything?
No, if that's all the questions, I just would like to thank you, Ruben and Vivian, for your inputs, and to say, look, that just to reiterate that the New Zealand visa check on our website really is the place to kickstart any meaningful inquiry. I noticed, for example, Vishal earlier asking about a job. Am I going to be able to get a job? And somebody else was asking, I think, Duminder, about his skill set. If you send us just a CV, you flick us a CV, that tells us only part of the whole story that we need to be able to see, because I can give you a classic today, not today, this week, somebody sent me a CV. They got a fantastic CV, And if all I had seen was the CV, I would have said, yes, great, you've got really strong options. But then when he filled out our NZ visa check, it turned out he'd had a heart failure in his history. And heart failure in your history needs to be very carefully looked at and is going to impact on your possible visa eligibility. So that's why we ask you to fill the NZ visa check, people, because there are many moving parts to an immigration journey. And that's why we have developed that tool precisely to help us see the big picture. So yeah, use it. It costs nothing to fill one out. It costs nothing to have a first chat with us, as Ruben said. So, you know, and that can be with any one of the team. We've all got calendars. You can just book a time that suits you. We try to make ourselves as available as possible. And if you're, whether you're interested in the job search, the direct migration, or the study, or a combination A/B strategies, come and talk to us. It's costs nothing to come and talk, and you know that we love nothing more. So thank you all for your time. You're welcome to ask more questions. Duminder, you see you've dropped a CV, but a CV is only going to tell me part of the story. So please, please, please use the NZ visa check. It's there for a reason, a very good reason. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Katie. Thanks, Vivian. Thank you for joining.